So, hello everyone. Today we have a special guest on our show. He was ranked as high as number 33 in the world in singles tennis, and also he's a skilled doubles specialist. He has amassed titles from all over the world. His powerful serve exceeds, I would say, like 130 miles per hour. He's often confused with former tennis player Tommy Haase. And interestingly, he has also given autographs to fans as Tommy. So, on that note, please welcome Dutchman Robin Hasse.
Hello, thanks for having me.
So, how are you, Robin?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm at home, so rarely, as a tennis player, you're rarely home. But it's nice to have a week off. Of
Okay.
course, you're still practicing and doing the gym, but outside my tennis, I have a lot of things to do. So it's good to be home.
So, really nice to know that. So, where are you based right now? In Netherlands?
Yes, I moved about a year ago to the Netherlands. I lived in Belgium for approximately 13 years, and now I've been living in Amsterdam. And I'm trying to find a house in a different city. So
Okay.
tomorrow we have a few viewings, and it's going to be
Yeah.
exciting.
So, good luck on that. So, which are the cities that you're looking for in the beautiful country of Netherlands?
I'm moving a little bit more to the border of Germany. So
Okay.
we're going to see what's going on there.
So, anyways, like as tennis players, I feel like you all need mobile homes. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, I lived throughout my career. I lived throughout, like in my car. There was always like a traveling bag with
Yeah.
a lot of clothes. If something happens, you
Mhm.
can you can sleep maybe at family or friends. You just have to be prepared for everything.
Good to know that. And also, recently you were at the Miami Open, and I'm sure you have been there almost 15, 20 times by now. Like throughout your career, the big tournament, you have been visiting Florida. So, this year, how was it playing there? How did you feel?
Well, we lost in the first round, so that was a bit disappointing, especially the way the match went. We were 5-4 up in the first set, serving for the set, and I remember hitting three good serves, and it was like 30 love, very quick, and I missed an easy drive forehand volley, and somehow the match or the game changed. I hit another double fault. So we gave the break too easily, and or in this case, I gave the break too easily. And then they played good, they served well, and we lost the match. So it was disappointing because we were hoping, of course, to go far. Um, I have a few friends in Miami, so that was nice to see them again. Although this year the weather was not great, so some rainy days. So instead of doing like going to
Yeah.
practice or doing some other stuff outside, we decided to go, for example, to go to the cinema, do something else.
Okay. So, what did you do at the cinema?
We watched a movie. I'm not sure what the name is. It was about a man who helped Jews during the Second
Okay.
World War,
Okay.
mainly kids, to escape the country, and it was a nice story, and a very moving story. However, the movie itself was not that great. It could have been better.
Okay, so speaking about your Miami Open loss, I'm sure, like as tennis players, loss is nothing but it's just another learning, a tennis lesson for them. Your opponent was Ben Shelton, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, Ben Shelton and Eubanks. So
Eubanks.
so two big serving Americans.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, when you play these guys, they just go for it. They just go for broke, and it's something where you have to play a good level to beat them, and this case we didn't. And as I already mentioned, I kind of messed up the one service game, and that's yeah, that shouldn't happen. So, like, if they play too good, if they hit return winners or they make good moves, then you can accept easily or more easily. Now I can just blame myself and what you can learn from that. Well, in this case, it's very simple. Um, don't make the mistakes at those crucial moments.
And what do you think about Ben Shelton's future in tennis?
I mean, he's still a young kid in a way. He doesn't look that young in a way that has a great build. So he's a great athlete, and his game is already very mature. Of course, great serve. Now won his first title in Houston on clay.
Yeah.
I'm very curious what will happen on the let's say the real clay in Europe. But I think he has a dangerous game overall, so it doesn't really matter to surface, and I think he has a bright future ahead of him.
So let's talk about your tennis career. What made you take up tennis professionally? When did it start? What was it like?
Yeah, I started very, very early. So I have my parents. They moved a lot when they didn't have any kids yet. So one of the things for them to socialize was to play tennis. Then my sister was born, my brother was born, and then eventually 6 years later I was born. So I was sometimes I joke around a little bit that I was the mistake, the last. Or how you call it. I'm not even sure how to say it in English. But anyway, my brother and my sister played tennis as well. And then as a younger brother, all you want to do is copy your siblings. And instead of playing in the sand and maybe other things, I just wanted to play tennis. So when I was able to walk and hold a racket, I started to play. So when I was around 2, I played. Hitting the balls. I was quite good at it. So people would throw more balls because they would be like, oh, that's interesting. And then with 5, I had my first tournament already.
Okay.
It was under 8. I immediately got to the second, or I got to the final. I was second. Then the year after, I played finals against the same guy again. I lost. But then with 7, he was too old. So then I finally won the tournament. So those are a little bit my first experience competing. And then it just kept going from there, playing nationally, then internationally in Europe, and then playing on the ITF tour under 18, and then became a professional.
And are your elder siblings proud of you, and do they take credit for everything you have achieved?
Oh, I mean, that's a question that you have to ask them. It's tough to speak for them, but I would say they're very proud. Especially my sister, she's always been my biggest fan, so she's always supporting, trying to watch. If I lose against someone that maybe she didn't like so much, now she hates them. So she's always been a fan. Yeah.
Good for that. And also, right now, Holland is producing classic tennis players. Right now, a lot of good players are coming from your country. But when you were growing up and when you were practicing your tennis, learning how to hold the racket, how was the culture like in your country?
Well, when I was growing up, we had what we call the golden generation. So we had Richard Krajicek, Jacco Elting, Paul Haase, Jan Siemering. They were number 1 in doubles. They were all top 20 in singles. Richard Krajicek even, I think it was 3 in the world. So he won Wimbledon. So that was a great time. After that, you had Cheng Schalken, who had an unbelievable career, and then you had a few players that also cracked the top 100. So we had lots of good players. So growing up, I was looking not so much up to them because it was a different time. Like I was just more playing myself. You didn't have internet or like constantly watching TV. You were more busy practicing yourself. But for sure it had an impact because tennis was big, a lot of also amateurs playing. That helped me because I just love to be on the tennis club all day long and playing with everyone. Didn't matter the height, the age, the whatever. I just wanted to play. So that was good. But then also it was when I started to become a professional. It was tough because at that time they were not. They all kind of stopped. So they all kind of old people, and also especially the press. They looked at me like, "Hey, this is the next Krychek." Well, it's kind of hard to step into the footsteps of someone
Yeah.
like that. So that wasn't always easy, especially because throughout my career, I wasn't always the only one in the top 100 in the Netherlands, but others they came and they came and go or came and went. So they were only like top 100 for like 1 year, and then they were out of the media again. So they kept looking at me. On the men's side, on the women's side, we had a few other people that were doing really well. One was, for example, Kiki Bertens. Arantxa Rus is still playing, which is amazing. She's, I think, 34 years old and cracked her best ranking.
Yeah.
So we did always have a good tennis culture, but in my time, I would say it was not easy to be constantly looked at like, oh, you're not doing that well, or it was very negative.
So I have to answer this question I have to ask you this since you touched upon Kiki Bertens. Like, she became the highest ranked Dutch tennis player ever. She won like big titles, Cincinnati, Madrid. Did she inspire the sporting culture in the Netherlands, and how did her tennis impact your country and of course your career?
Well, my career, not so much. I mean, I'm older than her, so
Yeah.
I've seen her. Well, I've seen her grow up and
Yeah.
become the great athlete that she became. Um, um, but yeah, so it didn't change anything for me. Only that I think she's a very humble person, a very friendly person, and I wished her all the best. So it was great to see that she achieved so much. Um, I think for Dutch tennis, of course, it's great. It's always good to have um, people winning big tournaments. Have ambassadors for your country in a way, for your sport.
Yeah.
Did it affect much that you see it in more people playing tennis? I'm not so sure. The studies that I have seen, anyway, if that happens, it's only always for like half a year or a year that you see a spike in any sport. Um, so probably there was, because she did exceptionally well. In the long term, I don't have the answer for that.
And also, you share an interesting trait with Rafa Nadal. Rafa Nadal once said, like, I write with my right hand, I play golf and basketball with my right hand. But in football, it comes naturally to him the left foot, and which is stronger to him. And also in tennis, all of us know his Popeye arm, which he has. Similarly, like, you are a righty, but you're left-handed. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, so that comes actually to the story because I started that early. And the younger age, I kind of played both, right-handed, left-handed, double-handed.
Okay.
It didn't really matter.
Okay.
Um, but I am more a lefty than a righty. Um, but then, yeah, when like my father asked me when I was 4 years old, what do you want to become when you are, older? And I didn't say a policeman or an astronaut or a doctor. No, I wanted to become a professional tennis player. So then my father said, well, then you have to decide to play left or right. And at that age, you just play forehand, backhand, that's it. And I didn't know how to serve. And everyone I knew at that time was right handed. So, what do you do as a child? You copy. So, I started to copy a right handed serve. And that's when I decided, well, I know how to serve right handed, so why not play right handed? Um, I don't know if it was a smart decision. I mean, I had a great career,
Mhm.
um, but I do think that if I would have been a lefty, I think it would have been an advantage.
Yeah. So similar to Rafa Nadal. So he was also given a choice by his uncle Tony. Like you need to choose. You cannot hit with both hands. So yeah, he chose to be left, and it has given a tough time to a lot of tennis players, and I'm sure you're aware of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm. And also in the year 2007, you made your Grand Slam debut. You entered the US Open as a lucky loser, and in the very first round, you had to play Novak Djokovic. Back then, he was a budding tennis player. He did not have any slams to his name. Like fast forward right now in 2024, he has 24 Grand Slams to his name. What are some major aspects in his games that have evolved over the years, in your opinion?
Um, I mean, I think the biggest change I would say is a serve. Same like with Rafa Nadal. I think they improved their serves incredible
Mhm.
throughout their careers, and the rest it was already there. So like he had already a good forehand.
Mhm.
Did it become better? Yes. He had already maybe the best backhand in the world. Did it still become better? Yes. So of course when you play on and you keep practicing and you do your
Mhm.
things, your positioning, your movement, your net play, in
Mhm.
the end everything starts to get better, and especially in this time with all these top players. So yes, we of course we all know Roger Federer, we all know Andy Murray, and we all know the Wawrinka and Nishikori and Raonic, but what we do forget in a way because time goes so quick
Mhm.
is the David Ferrers, the Davidenkos, all these kind of certain players. They played such a high level,
Mhm.
and they were all of them. We were, or even myself. If I mean, I'm not going to compare myself, but
Mhm.
I was playing at the same time, so they forced me to get better every single year, and that's what just these guys did.
Mhm. Do you have some recollections from that match, US Open '07?
Yeah, I do. Because I was playing a shockingly bad match. So um, I remember leading up to the U.S. Open.
Mhm.
Uh, I played, I think, 8 weeks in a row, which you usually don't. Maybe you play 3 tournaments in a row, you have some time off, and you play on, and you play another 2 or 3. But I remember I was playing after I was playing a challenger at home. I was playing an ATP at home. Then at the ATP, I did well. I got a special exam to another event, so I was like, okay, let's take it. But then I played Washington. I played another tournament, another challenger, and then I had to play qualies. And I remember playing at the challenger before the qualies. I was already exhausted. Then I lost in the last round of qualies, which a match I shouldn't have lost.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, I got to be a lucky loser, but
Mhm.
honestly, I was not prepared in a way to really. I mean, I was there to compete,
Mhm.
but to really compete in a way that I have chances and create chances, I think I wasn't ready at that time for that stage, and especially against someone like Novak, because yes, he didn't win any Grand Slams I think until then, but he was already number 10 in the world, I believe. So yeah, I just remember it was a bad match. I remember the crowd. Um, I think in this third set, out of frustration, I just screamed, saying nothing, just yelling. And I remember the crowd going like, "Yeah, come on, let's go!" And it was, I that was fun. But
Mhm.
otherwise, it was a match. Well, there's actually one fact that it's nice that I can mention.
Yes, please.
Um, so already back then, I was a very always working on not my game and mentally, but also looking at statistics. And I
Okay.
would but I would make those statistics on my own, so I didn't have money to do that or hire someone. But one of the statistics that I knew that Novak had is that at big points, so break points or like set
Mhm.
points, he would go out wide on his serve on the ad side.
Okay.
And I remember I had one break point in the whole match, and of course he hit an ace T. So that was not a good statistic to have at that moment.
Yeah, he's always a nightmare to play for all the tennis players. No matter he's fit or he's number 50 in the world, Novak is Novak. You can never count him out.
Yeah, for sure.
And also, you juggled between singles and doubles tennis throughout your career. And to me, to everyone, tennis professionals, they are two different career tracks. How taxing was it to manage singles and doubles? And you were previously like you were actively involved in both. And did your singles game evolve or benefit because of your doubles concentration? Like we know like players like Serena and Venus, like they've done wonders in both doubles and singles. Like how was it for you?
Yeah, for me, growing up, I always loved to play tennis. So if it's singles or doubles, I didn't mind. It was tennis.
Okay.
Also, in the Netherlands, we have a good, like a big culture in club matches where you play doubles or even mixed doubles. So I always enjoyed that. Then I think what was good that the ITF made it more the doubles more important in juniors. So it was not only your singles ranking counted, but also I think 1/4 of your doubles points went onto your singles points, which
Okay.
I kind of liked. Um, and then throughout my career, I said, well, first of all, if you play doubles, it's an extra practice. So, on your day off, you're going to practice 1.5 hours anyway. So why not play a match? Because a match is always the best practice there is. Then, secondly, you can learn a lot from their doubles for your singles, because the most important shots in tennis are serve, return, first shot.
For sure.
Well, that's what you need in doubles. And in doubles, you can also learn a lot about positioning and net play. So I only see plus for your singles. Another thing is, well, money. It's not the most important thing of those that I mentioned, but it's there. I mean, you can make extra money playing the sport you love to do. So why not? Um, Is it tough to always play singles doubles, which I did, I think, for 16 years? Yes, but you can choose some tournaments not to, and just play singles for a week. But in general, as I mentioned, you're going to practice anyway. So doubles is not as physically demanding as singles. So I've never lost a singles match because I played doubles at a tournament.
Played doubles. Okay.
So that's why also I don't understand the reasoning of singles players wanting to rest, because come on, you're fit, you're strong, play. It's what you love to do, right? I understand if players that always go far in events like semifinals and finals, I understand that they are not playing every single week. But guys like me that sometimes do well at tournaments but also lose first and second rounds, why not play doubles?
That's an interesting insight that you have given me. Like, I have always heard players, they are wanting to concentrate on doubles or singles, but eventually, like players like Coco Gauff, if you take her, like her singles game is improving because of her doubles. Similarly, Jessica Pegula. But don't you think, like in men's tennis, sometimes matches last up to 4 hours, 5 hours, and once they are done, especially at the Grand Slams, and the very next day they have to play another doubles match? Isn't it mentally taxing for them?
So that's correct. But now you're mentioning, I think, what would it be? 2% of all the tournaments that we have, and these are the 4 Grand Slams.
Okay.
But you have all the other tournaments, which is, I think we have like 70 tournaments
Yeah.
on the tour. So you don't have to play doubles at the Grand Slams, because you might play 4 hours and then you do need your rest. I understand
Yeah.
that. But all the other events, I don't see any issue. And I think actually it has to start also with coaching. The coaches have to take doubles more seriously. express how important it can be for the singles career. But I often find that coaches, they get like a percentage of the prize money in singles. So then I wonder if they always do what is correct, or what maybe is helpful for them.
Okay. So that's interesting. So, do you remember what happened in the year 2013?
In the year 2013, well, a few things happened, I guess.
Okay, like in your career, like.
In my career, 2013. Yeah, I'm not even sure now. Yeah.
Oh, you're not sure. So you made it to the finals of Australian Open.
Yeah,
Along,
and doubles. Yeah.
yes, you
Yeah.
did. And in the finals, you played the legendary doubles pair, needless to say, the Bryan brothers. So, what were the major takeaways from that match by playing against Bryan brothers in general?
Well, the Bryan brothers, they of course they knew each other in and out. They were twins. They played amazing tennis for I don't know 20 years or so.
Yeah.
They were always on top, always winning your Grand Slam every year almost, for
In
so
Grand
many
Slam
years.
total, yeah.
Yeah, so they've been an amazing team. I played them a few times, managed to beat them as well. I mean, they were a great team. One lefty, one righty, one mind in a way. So they were always on top of it. Good discipline, good. Often good tactics. So they were really a tough team to beat. In the final, I remember I think one journalist said that they made only 3 unforced errors in the whole match. So that was one of their best matches, I guess, they played. We were a break up immediately in the first game. And then I remember Igor Sijsling, which was my partner, he was serving, and we were 30 all, and he had a good serve, and I hit a smash, and they pushed it up again, and I remember I missed it another smash long, and although we were a break up, but that point completely changed the match, because I feel like if I hit that smash in, maybe a good serve, and we're 2-love, and the match is. I'm not going to say we're going to win that set or the match, but it can be different than it went now, because now they hit an unbelievable return, 1-all, and we didn't have any chance whatsoever in the whole match. So the beginning was, I remember it was a tough one.
Good to know that. And also, you have been in the sport for almost 20 years now. You have played against different generations of tennis, being it Tim Henman, Roddick, Ljubicic, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Wawrinka, and now then Dimitrov, and also you have also played Thiem, Shapovalov, young players. How has the game evolved from one generation to another?
Well, I think, or what mostly changed is that, also because of material, of course. So even in my time growing up, people were playing faster and faster, but now it's even stronger. So the balls are being hit bigger, but I believe there's less tactic in the game. What I think is a little bit of a shame is that all the courts are similar, so it doesn't really matter if you play on clay, hard, or grass. Yes, the movement is different, but the bounce is similar, which I think is a pity, because when I grew up playing, let's say you have a matchup like Gilles Muller, or a Nicolas Mahut, who is very, very extremely good on the grass. He would have had a really good chance beating Nadal, or maybe was even favorite on grass against Nadal. Nowadays, this is not the case, because the everything changed. The grass is slower, and all these things, I think, is a bit of a shame, because that makes tennis. If I call it boring, it's too harsh. But but I would like to see a little bit more of variety. I think
All right.
variety is key for our sport to yes, it's great to have superstars, but it's also great to have underdogs beating the superstars. And I feel like what has, yeah, because of the material and the surfaces and the balls, that kind of disappeared, and I hope that will come back in the future.
Yeah. Speaking about the balls, like a lot of people, tennis players out loud on social media, they have said like ATP and WTA Tour, they should seriously consider having stabilized system of balls. So how do you feel that? Like you fly from one tournament to another, the balls change, and that has impacting tennis players' wrists, elbows, causing a lot of injuries. So do you have any opinion on that?
Yeah, it's always with these things you have to look at least three different angles. One, the player side, one, the tournament side, and three, the spectator side. So the fans. So if you play with the same ball a little bit more consistently, I would say swings. So let's say the whole Australia Open and the tournaments before, we play with one ball.
Okay.
And then in February, we can play with another ball, but at least it has to be one certain ball. Then I think you will have less injuries, so it's good for the players. The negative thing maybe about that, if you cannot change balls, it's for the tournaments, sponsor deals.
Sponsor deals.
That can be a negative thing, but in general, I think it's not the biggest concern because it's not the most amount of that they pay, for to have the balls at that tournament. I think tournaments can find other ways to make money. So I think in that case, it's more in favor of the players. But then if you take the third point, the spectators pay tickets to see a match, so they want to be entertained. However, so one of the entertainment value that we have is how good the level is.
Yeah.
If we change balls every single week, and if you do well, for example, you play semi-final at a tournament and you go to the next tournament, and you have one day to adjust court, weather, but then also balls, your level probably is a little bit less.
Yes.
So keeping the balls consistent, that means probably your level also stays more consistent. So for the spectators, it's great. So in this case, this is an example where I say, well, players, it's good for them. Spectators, it's good for them. Tournaments, maybe not as much, but still, it's not a horrible thing for them. Okay, then I think we should find a solution where we play with certain balls at a swing. And the swing should last at least 3 to 4 weeks, and then we can change.
Okay.
Some suggest one ball throughout the whole year. I don't agree with that because balls play different on grass, different on clay, different on hard. So you kind of already need 3 different balls. But also, who decides which ball we're going to play with? Because I love a ball that that flies, but someone else likes a ball that doesn't fly but is like a little bit bigger. So to make it more fair, and again, and this is why I also say different surfaces, they need to be quicker, for example, and slower. The same goes with the balls. If you have certain swings where the ball is a little bit faster, it helps the serving guys. If you have a ball that's slower, it maybe helps the guys that play more rallies. So you have more adjustments to make, but at least they are in a couple, like always in a couple of weeks in a row.
That's really interesting to know. Like, there's so much behind tennis going on, and players are struggling to adjust with first the court, the conditions, and then the balls. It's a really taxing being a tennis player.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, it's, I would say it's maybe the toughest sport there is in the world because we have to make so many adjustments. Of course, it's always tough to compare, but if you take all the different aspects that you need to be able to do for
Tough and as well as expensive.
Yeah, tennis is a very expensive sport. I mean, it's also on the highest level you can make a lot of money. But I think and that's what I found out also, it's very tough to talk about money in tennis because often when players talk about money, it's not often about themselves, but more the lower ranked players that we actually try to help. But then people only see the check yeah, that we get at a Grand Slam, and then yeah, all tennis players make a lot of money. But no, that's not the case at all.
Yes, that's again another debate in tennis, like how to support younger tennis players, upcoming tennis players. Even Djokovic has been pretty vocal about it to increase prize money in challenger and other level tournaments. So again, like speaking about your rivalry, I wouldn't say rivalries, like your experiences playing with some top players. Like you have played Nadal at Wimbledon, Roland Garros, Djokovic, you have played US Open, Australia, St. Murray. Who was the toughest to play and where?
I mean, overall, as a tennis player, because you always
Mhm.
have to look at matchups.
Yeah,
Some players you prefer not to play. Some there may be three in the world, but you actually don't mind to play them.
yeah.
Um, but in my case, I think the worst opponent for me was always Novak Djokovic. But I guess the most impossible to beat was Rafa at the French Open.
At the French Open. So I think only two players have done it so far. So maybe let's see. What do you think about this year's French Open? Will he play? Will he come back?
Yeah, I mean, if he's ready to compete, he will definitely play. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I know his way of thinking and how strong of a well truly has a lion's heart, and he wants to, if he can compete, he wants to give it all. So I hope he can, but yeah, it's not going to be easy for him for sure.
And you mentioned about Djokovic giving you a tough time. But this year in Australia, sadly, all of us saw something which has never occurred in tennis, like him losing in the semifinals. And ultimately, it was Yannick Sinner who was lifting the trophy in Melbourne. So, what do you feel about the change of guard happening in tennis?
Um, Well, it's inevitable. You will always have changes. Um, as long as Novak is healthy, he will compete and he will be winning slams or he will be number one in the world. Um, but of course, if the body is getting worn down, then it's tougher to compete. That means it's more. It gets also even more mentally. And although he's one of the strongest, or maybe the strongest player there is mentally, there will come a time where also he will break. Um, so it's good for tennis that you have again new guys coming up, but they always will be. In 10 years' time, it's not Sinner, but someone else again. Um, but I think, especially with a Sinner and Alcaraz, not only their way of playing, but I think also their characters and how humble they are and how friendly they are. I think that's good and nice to see. Um, you will always need different characters. You also need, let's call them bad guys. But it's nice to see how these guys are on and off the court.
So, who are your favorite tennis players to watch right now? Whom do you enjoy watching?
Yeah, I mean Alcaraz, for example, is. I mean, I think 90% of the people would say that. Um, Other than that, I honestly don't watch so much tennis. I'm very busy, so when I don't actually, I got to the point in my career when I'm like now at home. For the first time today, I checked some scores, but sometimes it can be that I'm like really 4 or 5 days
Yeah.
not following anything. So yeah, it's I'm getting older, so other priorities in life as well.
I can understand that. So, what are your interests outside tennis since you're growing older now?
Well, I always have a lot of interests. I would like to read a little bit more. I haven't read like a lot. Normally, I read a few books a year. I think in the past 2 years, I only read one, so I have to start that. But I've been very busy. I'm participating in 3 different companies that I also set up from the start.
Okay.
So it's very fulfilling, but it's also a lot of work. So one is in virtual reality, one is in helping. One is in creating a community where we help athletes to educate them first of all, and then also investing in startups with them. So that's called joint capital. So it's quite nice to do something for athletes, because unfortunately in tennis it's quite okay, because we often, the first time I made money was 100 euros, then it went 500, then 1,000, and it went up. But if you have NBA players, basketball players, soccer players, a lot of team sports where they go from zero to millions, it's very hard to know what the worth is of money. So we try to help those athletes. And the third company that I have is something totally different again. It's something in spirits.
Okay.
So we sell, trade, but also bottle our own unique whiskeys and rum and Armagnac. So very, as I said, unique bottles, and it's a fun world to be in. And we also have a quite funny name. It's called Absolutely Nuts Spirits.
Okay.
So we were so passionate about it, and also crazy about it. So that's how we came up with the idea of the name.
So basically, your investment portfolio is diversified in all the different ventures which are present in the world, correct?
Yeah, you can see it that way. Yeah, for sure.
So have you co-founded any companies, or you're just an investor in all these
No,
companies?
sorry. So in the virtual reality, I bought with a friend. We bought the license to do that, and then the alcohol company, the spirits company, I started that from scratch with one other person, and the joint capital. So the investment is done by a group of people. So we're a few athletes that started this. I did have another company in art, which I started also from scratch, but we got, let's call it, we got rid of it because I didn't have any time anymore. So we stopped that, but that was also a fun project for sure.
That's really interesting to know. Like international tennis players who are pretty well known, they have side hustles too in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, I guess most of them don't. I think I might be an exception, and especially in how many different things. But I've been always very interested in a lot of things and always wanted to learn. And of course, when I was younger, it was just tennis, 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 and reading books. But now I have a little bit more time, especially just playing doubles. I have some more time to do other things.
A tennis player who has the same first name as yours.
Robin Söderling.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Even he has a tennis. He has something to do with tennis guts, strings, and
Strings and balls.
yeah,
Yeah.
the ball.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's his company. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really fascinated when I saw that. Like, okay, tennis players, they're again contributing something to the society, to the tennis world again.
Yeah, you have other athletes in the Netherlands. You have an ex-player, Schenk Schalken, who has his own clothing brand. You have still a competing player, Matwé Middelkoop, who has his own clothing brand. So yeah, I guess we all kind of like to do something.
Yeah, and tell me something about the Tommy Haas connection. Like when I found out, it was really funny for me. Like people do use you. So does it still happen?
Um, it doesn't happen so often anymore with fans coming up and asking a signature, but or an autograph. It does happen at tournaments quite often. If I get a car, they're like, "I want to book a car," and I say like, "Hey, for Robin Haase," and then they look in the system and they still see Haas, and they're like, "Oh, Tommy." No, Robin. Oh,
Right.
okay, okay. Um, but yeah, I used to, especially in the tournaments in the US. I got oh they asked me for, like, they thought I was Andy Murray, they thought I was Gulbis, they thought one thought even I was Gustavo Kuerten. But a few of them, they always said, "Hey, Tommy, Tommy." They knew I was Haase, not him, but they still said Tommy. So at a certain moment, I just decided, if they really thought it was, if I was Tommy, I just faked a Tommy signature and just wrote it instead of explaining that I'm someone else.
Mhm. Interesting and really fascinating to know, like, you are recognized as so many different tennis players.
Yeah, it does happen. With some, I kind of understand. Like with Andy Murray, we had both had like the long curly hairs, and then
Mhm.
if people would maybe see me from afar, they would be like, "Oh, that could be." Um, but some of the players, until now, I don't understand.
So nice to know. All right, Robin. Thank you so much for your time today. It was lovely speaking to you, and I wish you all the best for your companies that you're investing in, and of course, your tennis career. It was a pleasure talking to you.
No worries at all. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.